are welcome to the Wealthy Continent channel, a channel dedicated to the great people and continent of Africa. Today, I'm going to be talking about a very important subject that we need to look at as Africans. Remember, I always say this, it is not the place that defines the status of a people. It is the people that defines the status of a place. So that means it's the people that makes things happen. So we have to reflect, we have to look at things, and we have to see how we can get better results. There is no way we will talk about Africa as a place and not talk about civilization. Civilization happens everywhere. We have 7 continents on this planet, and the same rules apply to all. So we have to look at civilization. In layman's language, is just how we deal with one another, how we treat one another as a people, and the bonuses of creation. The continent still needs developing. Like every one of us, we're still under construction. Now, there is no way I'm going to mention civilization without mentioning some things that are very particular to life. A man once said something very profound, a scientist, Albert Einstein. He said, God does not play dice with the universe. It means everything is intentional. I believe when God created this earth, he instituted some principles of life that still works till today. In all the 7 continents, the principles of life work. So whether we do something about them or not, they work. So I'm going to be looking at these principles and civilization. The more we know about the principles, the more we work them, the more we apply them to life and apply them to the things around us, the more we develop. So civilization is not an event, it's a process. So principles are there to govern how things are being done on this earth, irrespective of where we are, irrespective of what we are doing, irrespective of how we respond to life. Principles are there. As a people, whether you are in the diaspora, whether you are in the continent, we must observe these principles. We must apply them to our everyday life. And the more we understand them, the more we apply them, the more we see development in our society, the more we see development in our lives. The principles, number 1, are very clear. They're very simple and very clear. Principles are not biased. They're not sentimental. Principles cannot be manipulated. Principles are universal. They work everywhere. Principles supersede the laws of men. Principles are just, are fair. Principles will work for anyone who works it. Principles will work against anyone who works against it. The principles of life, when applied correctly, adds positively to a people, to a society, to a life, to a business. We must be conscious of these principles. Principles don't lead astray. They are ethical. They can be built upon. Principles are bankable. They are predictable. Because the way you conduct yourself, if you conduct yourself based on principles, you know what to expect. Principles are part of life. And we have to understand this as a people. And embrace this and start using it as our way of life. Every time we apply the principles of life, it works for us. Each time we don't apply correctly, it works against us. So we determine how the principles work. We have 7 continents. And if you go to different places, you might see, wow, these people, the way they treat one another is different. The way things are built, the facilities, the systems, the way they are maintained, the way they work, wow, these people are more civilized. These principles, if you look at them with observation, you will see that they are working in that system. I'm going to mention a few of these principles that we need to observe as a people. The more we discover these principles and apply in our day-to-day life, the better results we have. One of the things about life is that we cannot live as if there are no consequences. Whether we respond positively or negatively to these principles will determine the kind of results we get. The principles are universal and will work anywhere and everywhere you find yourself. There's a principles of utilization. The bonuses of creation has been given to us. It is how we use these resources to our advantage that it will be profitable. If we don't use these resources, they'll be there. And if they are there, guess what? There's another principle of utilization. If you don't know how to use it, it's going to be passed on to the people who know how. That is just a principle. There's a principle of diligence. There's a principle that the more you put in, the more you are dedicated to a task, the better you become. There's a principle of gravity. Whatever goes up must come down. Is a principle. As long as this earth remains, these principles are life. They work irrespective of whether we know they're there or not. There's a principle of time and season. Things happen from year to year, and we have to observe how things happen so that we can play along. Sometimes we have to work with nature to make things work. There's a principle of planning, organization, the principle of management. They are all principles of life. It is not about what you have. It's about how you manage it. How you manage what we have will determine what you will get from it. The principles of faithfulness, utilization, the principles of protection. You have to protect what you have. You can't just leave it on the street. You have to look after the principles of safety, the principle of integrity, honesty. They are all there. And these are the things that makes a major difference in any society. The principle of justice, of equity, of mercy, they're there. I want you to remember that it is not the place that determines the status of the people. It is the people that determines the status of the place. If you are getting value for your time, I'd like you to consider subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and sharing with others. Remember, a candle does not lose its value by giving light to others. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.